When my ex invited me to his engagement party, I knew it was a setup to humiliate me, but what he didn't know was that the mysterious man I'd been secretly meeting for months was about to reveal a shocking truth that would destroy his family's empire forever. Hey everyone, I'm Nancy, and what I'm about to tell you sounds impossible, but every word is true. This story has family betrayal, hidden secrets, and the most satisfying plot twist you'll ever hear. Hit subscribe now because this gets absolutely wild. You know that feeling when you think you know someone completely and then they show you a side of themselves that makes you question everything? That's exactly what happened to me with Ryan Preston. For 3 years, I thought I was dating the man of my dreams. He was charming, successful, and came from one of the most respected families in the city. I worked as a financial analyst at Preston and Associates, the investment firm his family owned, and I genuinely believed I was building a future with this man. But looking back now, I realize the red flags were always there. His mother, Catherine Preston, never missed an opportunity to remind me that I came from a different world than theirs. She'd make these little comments during family dinners, like how I held my fork wrong or how my dress wasn't quite appropriate for their social circle. Ryan would just laugh it off, telling me his mother was old-fashioned and that she'd come around eventually. I believed him because I wanted to. I was so in love that I convinced myself these small humiliations were just part of dating someone from a wealthy family. The change in Ryan started slowly. He began making these cutting remarks about my background, my education, my friends. He'd say things like, "Maybe you should let me handle the financial discussions at dinner parties, Nancy. You know how these things can get complicated." Or, "I think it's cute how you try to fit in with my friends, but maybe you should just be yourself." The worst part was how he'd say these things with a smile, making me feel like I was overreacting when they hurt. The end came on a rainy Thursday evening in his penthouse apartment. I'd made dinner, lit candles, and was planning to talk to him about moving in together. Instead, he sat me down and delivered the most devastating speech of my life. "Nancy, I've been thinking a lot about us lately, and I don't think this is working anymore. You're a sweet girl, but you're not sophisticated enough for the world I live in. You're nothing without my family's name, and honestly, you'll never find anyone like me again." I sat there in stunned silence as he continued. "I need someone who can stand beside me as an equal, someone who understands the responsibilities that come with the Preston name. You're just not that person." He handed me a check, actually handed me money, and said, "This should help you get back on your feet. Maybe find a nice apartment in a neighborhood more suited to your lifestyle." I tore up that check and walked out of his apartment, but his words echoed in my head for weeks. The worst part wasn't even the breakup itself. It was going back to work every day and seeing the way people looked at me. Word had gotten around the office about what happened, and suddenly I was the girl who'd tried to climb the social ladder and fallen flat on her face. 3 months later, I finally found the strength to leave Preston and Associates. I landed a position at Sterling Financial, a smaller but reputable firm downtown. My new boss, Margaret, was this incredibly sharp woman who didn't care about my personal drama, only whether I could do the job. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. That's when I met him. My first week at Sterling, Margaret assigned me to handle a very special client account. "This one's a bit unusual, Nancy," she told me. "The client prefers to meet after regular business hours, and he values his privacy above everything else. Are you comfortable with evening meetings?" I needed this job to work out, so I agreed without hesitation. The following Tuesday, I stayed late to meet this mysterious client. When the elevator doors opened at 7 p.m., I expected to see some eccentric old millionaire who was paranoid about his investments. Instead, I found myself face to face with Harrison Vale, and I immediately understood why he valued privacy. Harrison was the CEO of Vale Industries, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the country. His face was regularly featured on magazine covers and business news programs, but what struck me most wasn't his fame or his obvious wealth. It was the way he looked at me when I introduced myself. There was this intensity in his eyes, like he was seeing something in me that I didn't even see in myself. "Ms. Nancy," he said, shaking my hand. "I have a feeling we're going to work very well together." Our meetings became a regular thing. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, Harrison would arrive precisely at 7, and we'd spend hours going over his investment portfolio. But somewhere along the way, our conversations started extending beyond business. He'd ask about my background, my goals, my thoughts on market trends. Unlike Ryan, who always made me feel like my opinions were cute but irrelevant, Harrison genuinely listened to what I had to say. After about a month of these meetings, Harrison started sharing more personal details about his life. He told me about growing up with a single mother who worked 3 jobs to support them. He talked about building his company from nothing, about the loneliness that came with success, about how hard it was to trust people when you never knew if they wanted you or your money. One evening in late November, our usual business discussion took an unexpected turn. Harrison had been quieter than usual, and I could tell something was bothering him. "Nancy," he finally said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. What do you know about Preston and Associates charitable contributions?" The question caught me completely off guard. "What is their charitable work?" "I mean, they donate to several foundations. Cancer research, children's hospitals, education programs. Why do you ask?" Harrison pulled out a thick folder from his briefcase and placed it on the table between us. "Because I've been investigating them for the past 6 months, and what I've discovered is going to shock you." My hands were shaking as I opened that folder. Inside were bank records, email exchanges, and financial documents that painted a horrifying picture. The Preston family had been systematically stealing money from charitable donations. They'd set up fake medical research contracts, diverted funds meant for cancer patients, and used their foundation as a front for money laundering. "I don't understand," I whispered, staring at the evidence. "How is this possible?" "I processed some of these transactions myself. That's exactly why I need your help," Harrison said gently. "You were there. You have access to records that I can't get through normal channels. Nancy, what I'm about to tell you might be hard to hear, but I think your life has been in danger since the day you left Preston and Associates." That's when the pieces started falling into place. The strange phone calls I'd been getting, the feeling that someone was following me, the break-in at my apartment where nothing was stolen but everything had been searched. I thought I was being paranoid, but Harrison explained that the Prestons couldn't risk me accidentally discovering what I'd helped them hide, but the biggest shock was still coming. Harrison took a deep breath and said, "There's something else I need to tell you, something personal. Nancy, Richard Preston isn't just the man who hurt you. He's also my father." I stared at him, unable to process what he'd just said. "Your father? But your name is Vale, and you said your mother raised you alone." 22 years ago, my mother, Elena Vale, was Richard Preston's secretary, Harrison explained. They had an affair that lasted almost 2 years. When she got pregnant with me, Richard promised he'd leave his wife. Instead, he fired her, had her blacklisted from every decent job in the city, and forced her to sign a non-disclosure agreement. We had to move across the country just to survive. The room was spinning. Everything I thought I knew about my life, about Ryan, about the Preston family, was crumbling around me. "So, Ryan is your half-brother?" "A half-brother who has no idea I exist," Harrison confirmed. "Richard made sure of that. But I've spent the last 10 years building Vale Industries specifically for this moment. I have more money than the Prestons could ever dream of, and I have the evidence to destroy everything they've built on lies and stolen charity money." That's when I understood why Harrison had really sought me out. "You didn't hire me just for my financial skills, did you?" He shook his head. "I've been watching the Preston family for years, waiting for the right opportunity. When I heard about your relationship with Ryan and how it ended, I saw a chance to get someone close to their operation. But Nancy, I need you to know that everything between us, all our conversations, the way I feel about you, that's all real. This started as business, but it became so much more. Before I could fully process this revelation, Harrison's phone rang. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. "Nancy, we need to move faster than I planned. I just received word that Ryan is getting engaged, and the engagement party is happening next week." Engaged? To whom? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer would complicate everything. Amanda Chen, daughter of Chen Pharmaceuticals in Hong Kong. But this isn't a love story, Nancy. This is an exit strategy. They're planning to merge with Chen's company and move their illegal operations overseas before anyone can stop them. That's when my own phone buzzed with a text message. It was an elegant digital invitation to Ryan Preston's engagement celebration with a personal note. Hope you can make it, Nancy. Would love for you to meet Amanda. Ryan. I showed Harrison the invitation, and he smiled for the first time that evening. Perfect. They just handed us the perfect opportunity to expose everything in front of the people who matter most to them. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Harrison explained that he'd been working with federal investigators for months, building a case against Preston and Associates. My insider knowledge was the missing piece they needed to move forward, but we had to be careful. If the Prestons suspected anything before the engagement party, they'd disappear with millions in stolen charity funds. Harrison arranged for me to meet with FBI agent Sarah Martinez, who confirmed everything he'd told me about the investigation. Ms. Nancy, your testimony and the documents you can provide are crucial to this case, she explained. We're talking about over $50 million stolen from cancer research foundations alone. Your cooperation could help us recover money that could save thousands of lives. The weight of responsibility was overwhelming. This wasn't just about getting revenge on Ryan anymore. This was about justice for all the people who'd been harmed by the Preston family's greed. The night before the engagement party, Harrison took me to his private stylist. Tomorrow night, you're not going to that party as Nancy, the heartbroken ex-girlfriend, he told me. You're going as Nancy, the woman who's about to help bring down a criminal empire. The transformation was incredible. The stylist dressed me in a stunning navy blue gown that made me feel like royalty. My hair was styled in an elegant updo, and they even provided jewelry that probably cost more than my annual salary. But the most important accessory was the tiny recording device hidden in my clutch purse. As we flew to the engagement party in Harrison's private jet, I couldn't help but think about how different my life had become in just a few short months. 6 months ago, I was a heartbroken woman who thought she'd lost everything. Now, I was sitting in a luxury aircraft, wearing designer clothes, on my way to expose one of the biggest financial crimes in the city's history. The party was being held at the Preston family's estate, a sprawling mansion overlooking the harbor. As our jet landed at the private airfield, I could see the lights from the party in the distance. Harrison squeezed my hand and said, "Are you ready for this?" I took a deep breath and nodded. Let's go give them a party they'll never forget. The moment we walked into that party, I felt every eye in the room turn toward us. The who's who of the city's elite were all there, and they immediately recognized Harrison. But I could see the confusion on their faces when they saw me on his arm. I watched as whispers started spreading through the crowd, and I knew that Catherine Preston would be getting word about our arrival within minutes. Ryan appeared first, making his way through the crowd with that familiar, confident smile. But I could see the uncertainty in his eyes when he spotted Harrison. "Nancy, what a surprise to see you here," he said, leaning in to kiss my cheek. "And you must be Harrison Vale. I've heard so much about Vale Industries." "All good things, I hope," Harrison replied smoothly. "Your family has quite a reputation in this city." That's when Catherine Preston materialized beside us, and I watched her face go completely white when she recognized Harrison. She grabbed Ryan's arm and whispered something urgent in his ear. I saw Ryan's expression change from confusion to something close to panic. "Mother, what's wrong?" he asked, but Catherine just stared at Harrison like she was seeing a ghost. Harrison smiled that same charming smile he'd given me in our first meeting. "Hello, Catherine. You look exactly the same as you did 22 years ago." The color drained from Catherine's face completely. "I think there's been some mistake. I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, but I think you do," Harrison said calmly. "In fact, I think we have a lot to talk about. All of us." That's when Amanda Chen appeared with her parents, and I realized we were about to witness the collapse of multiple empires at once. Amanda's father, David Chen, immediately recognized the tension in our little group. "Is everything all right?" he asked in accented English. Harrison turned to address not just our small group, but the entire party. His voice carried across the room as he spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for interrupting this celebration, but there's something important that needs to be addressed." The room fell silent. Catherine was frantically whispering to her husband, Richard, who had just joined us and looked equally shocked to see Harrison. "You see," Harrison continued, "I've spent the last several months investigating Preston and Associates, and what I've discovered is going to interest all of you very much, especially you, Mr. Chen, considering you're about to enter into business with them." That's when I heard the sirens in the distance. The FBI agents Harrison had been coordinating with were right on schedule. "What is this?" Ryan demanded, but his voice cracked with fear. I stepped forward, my hand steady as I reached into my purse to stop the recording device. "This is justice, Ryan, for every cancer patient whose treatment was delayed because your family stole their funding, for every family who trusted you with their charitable donations, for every person your family has hurt while hiding behind their reputation." The front doors of the mansion opened and Agent Martinez walked in with a team of federal agents. "Richard Preston, Catherine Preston, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit money laundering." The engagement party erupted into chaos. Guests were pulling out their phones, security guards were trying to figure out what was happening, and the Chen family was demanding answers from Ryan about what they'd just walked into. As the agents led his parents away in handcuffs, Ryan turned to me with tears in his eyes. "Nancy, I'm so sorry. I never knew about any of this. You have to believe me." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Then I remembered all the times he'd made me feel small, all the ways he'd tried to convince me I wasn't good enough for his world. "The sad thing is, Ryan, I actually do believe you. You were just as much a victim of your parents' lies as everyone else. But that doesn't excuse how you treated me." Harrison put his arm around me as we watched the investigation team secure evidence from throughout the house. "It's over," he said quietly. "My mother can finally rest in peace knowing that justice was served." But the story doesn't end there. Over the next few weeks, as the Preston and Associates scandal dominated the news, Harrison and I spent countless hours working with federal investigators to help recover the stolen funds. My testimony was crucial in tracking down hidden accounts and identifying victims who deserved restitution. The Chen family, thankfully, was cleared of any wrongdoing. They'd been completely unaware of the Preston family's crimes and had actually been intended victims of the next phase of the money laundering scheme. Amanda, devastated by the revelation that her engagement was part of a criminal conspiracy, broke off the relationship with Ryan immediately. As for Ryan himself, he was eventually cleared of criminal charges since he genuinely had no knowledge of his parents' activities. But the family business was destroyed, their assets were frozen, and their reputation was ruined beyond repair. Ryan reached out to me several times during the investigation, apologizing and trying to explain that his mother had always threatened to hurt anyone who got too close to the family secrets. Part of me understood that he'd been protecting me by pushing me away, but it was too little, too late. The most beautiful part of this entire story, though, is what happened between Harrison and me. What started as a business arrangement born out of revenge turned into something real and genuine. He showed me what it felt like to be valued for my mind, my integrity, and my strength. He never tried to change me or make me fit into some predetermined mold. 6 months after that explosive engagement party, Harrison asked me to marry him. Not because it would benefit his business or improve his social standing, but because he couldn't imagine building a life with anyone else. We're planning a simple ceremony, nothing like the elaborate society events the Prestons used to throw. Just family, real friends, and people who matter. And here's the most satisfying part of all. The recovered money from the Preston and Associates investigation was returned to the medical charities it was stolen from. That $50 million is now funding cancer research that could save countless lives. Harrison also established the Elena Vale Foundation in his mother's memory, dedicated to helping single mothers and their children overcome financial hardship. Looking back now, I realize that Ryan was right about one thing. I would never find anyone like him again. Thank goodness for that. I found someone so much better. I found someone who saw my worth even when I couldn't see it myself. I found someone who valued justice over revenge and love over manipulation. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of putting exactly the right person in your path when you need them most. What started as the worst heartbreak of my life led me to the greatest love story I could have imagined. And the best part? Harrison still meets with me every Tuesday and Thursday evening, but now it's to plan our future together instead of plotting someone else's downfall. That's how I learned that the best revenge isn't proving someone wrong, it's proving yourself right. Sometimes the universe has a funny way of putting exactly the right person in your path when you need them most. If this story inspired you to never settle for less than you deserve, smash that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had a moment where everything just fell perfectly into place? I love reading your stories too.